Today's show is sponsored by Kyrios Consulting. That is Kyrios with a Y, Kyrios. Real estate investing can be intimidating. That's why you don't do it alone. Kyrios Consulting gets you from no real estate to your first rental property. My friend Steve did it right here in New Hampshire, and he wants to help other Christians do the same. Visit consultingbykyrios.com. Again, that's with a Y, consultingbykyrios.com. No more excuses. The world needs more Christians with passive income, not more passive Christians. Make it happen. The link is in the description. All right. Let's get back to the old Sean DeMars, Doug Wilson thing. Happy Friday. That's right. I have no idea where we are in this thing, so we're just going to continue. Man, I was watching the Rangers last night. Man, 2 overtime games in a row. I hate playoff overtime because, well, if you lose, it's just a waste. But we won twice in a row, so I love playoff overtime. It's wonderful. It's the most exciting overtime in all of sports. That's the truth. Man, the Rangers are looking unbeatable. It's just ridiculous. The Rangers are looking unbeatable. There's no weakness to the game. And when you have the best goalie in the world, I mean, it just makes things that much more fun. But yeah, so let's just dive right in.
It's from our church.
And by the way, I hope I'm not trying to sound like a victim. I'm trying to be funny. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true, but
if they're from our church.
I remember. I remember now. This is where I told Sean to grow up because he was complaining about all the people at Doug's church that were mean to him online. And Sean is a smart guy, and I think that Sean gets it a lot more than a lot of Big Eva kind of people, and then like the up and comers in Big Eva, which I put Sean in that category. He gets it a lot more than others. And so he says, I wish you would have told those people at your church that were so mean to me. And he realizes that he might have said something he shouldn't have said, which he definitely did, because it sounds like a whiny little baby. So he says, oh, no, I was just kidding. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but it doesn't matter. The damage is done at that point. You do sound like you're whining, and, you do got to grow up. I mean, this is the internet, right? I mean, every single movement, no matter what side, no matter what issue it is, has people that harass them online and mock them online. I've got my fair share. It's as simple as that. But you never hear me talking about it. And why is that? Because who cares? It's just some Yahoo on the internet. Who cares? And even if you have someone mocking you in real life, like, there are times when you fight people like that. There are times when you step to them, especially if they're trying to check you. This is the thing. Like, men have to realize that there's a time for everything under the sun. I'm writing my talks for the upcoming conference I'm going to. By the way, check it out. It's the men's intensive at the Shepherd's Crook. Check out the conference. I'll try to put the link in this video because last time I didn't do it. But there's a time for everything, and you got to realize sometimes there's a time to fight, and sometimes when somebody's mocking you or something like that, you just ignore it. You know what I mean? You see this in like professional sports, like you'll get jeered by the crowd. You just pretty much tune that out, right? But if someone's checking you, and it's that kind of thing, there might be a situation where it's not appropriate to ignore that. You got to stand up for yourself, that kind of thing, and so. Anyway, every side has people that mock on the internet. It's not a special thing. Sean and friends try to make it like a special thing with Moscow. It's really Moscow's fault that they've got these people that they learned to mock from you, dog. It's your fault. And it's like every single side has these idiots. It's as simple as that. And I'm not calling my side idiots because I think a lot of the people that they say are mocking and they're so mean, they're really not. But there are mean people out there. We understand that. We really understand that. But every side has them. It's as simple as that.
Church, it'd be worth us knowing about that.
So basically, if someone's under our care, pastoral care, and they are off the leash online, that's something we pastor. So if we're responsible for them, and someone said, hey, so-and-so is out there going after So they will get a note or someone will check in with them. That's something we care about.
Okay.
If someone in South Carolina...
And why shouldn't they? And why shouldn't they? I mean, your behavior online is just part of your behavior in general. And so, of course, your pastors should care about it. But again, I'm not going to accept Sean's word that these people were being inappropriate online. I mean, they probably said something maybe a little bit edgy, but it probably wasn't that inappropriate. And maybe some of them were. But yeah, of course, pastors should care about that and should be involved in their people's lives enough to know kind of what they're up to on the internet and stuff like that. It's part of your life. It's not disconnected from your life. People like to say that Twitter's not real life. And I understand what they're saying when they say that. And a lot of times they're right, but also it is real life. You know what I mean? It is part of your life. It's part of your behavior.
China is doing that, and I don't know anything about it. And I don't know who he is,
right?
But he claims he's inspired by me. That's a world's a fallen place.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
yeah, and they really shut that one down too, because what Sean was attempting to do was to lay at the feet of Doug all kinds of people, not just people at his church. So he's like, there's so many people inspired by you that made fun of me. They were mean to me. They were mean to Ligon, and it's like, grow up, first of all, and second of all. If they're at my church and they said something that's inappropriate or not becoming of a Christian, okay, we'll talk to them. We'll see what it's like. First we'll look at it to make sure that you're actually correct, and because quite frankly, Sean's standard is not correct. He's got a very low tolerance for edgy language. So first of all, is it wrong? And second of all, if it is, okay, yeah, well, he's our person. But if he's not our person, if he's just some random person in New Hampshire named A.D. Robles and he said something that I don't agree with, well, I mean, that's up to his pastor. That's not my fault. That's not up to me. I have no responsibility for people like that. I've got no duty to people like that. Because I've given the qualifications. I've told you what I'm doing and what I'm not doing. And if so he's not listening to me, it has nothing to do with me anymore. You know what I mean? I did what I had to do in that situation. So they shut that down real quick. They're about to put the nail in that coffin in just a moment. Let's find out.
Think through this. This is a legitimate question. On the one hand, you know that you're influencing people to, at minimum, embrace mockery, sarcasm, so on and so forth. But you're trying to put up all the right guardrails. You're trying to do that on top of a solid foundation, but you know it's going to go awry. Yeah. Where do you accept responsibility, or how do you accept responsibility when it does?
It's a legitimate question. Sure, you can ask that question, and I totally understand what you're asking, but it's a stupid question. A very stupid question. A question that any pastor, and Sean, you're a pastor, and I'm assuming you're a good one, any pastor should know the answer to that question. Because we hear that accusation about the words of God every single day. They misinterpreted your words, God. I mean, how are you responsible for someone that hears someone say XYZ and says, oh, see, Jesus approved gay people. He approved the gay relationship with the Roman centurion. I mean, God, couldn't you have been clearer? Where's the blame on you? So sure, Sean, it's a legitimate question, but it's a stupid question. And if you could just take your Big Eva goggles off for 5 seconds, where Doug Wilson is the villain of every story, you would see how stupid that question is. It's a stupid question. Now, that's how A.D. Robles says it. But Joe Rigney is about to completely devastate Sean's ridiculous, stupid question. And by the time Joe is done with him, you're going to know, and Sean knows, how stupid his question is. And he does it with a smile on his face and a very, very warm demeanor. Joe Rigney, if I had a hat, I would take it off to you.
So I'd flip this around and just to take it out of the mockery thing and put it in someplace else and see what would you do.
Yeah.
So say you were going to write a book encouraging people to be gentle and lowly.
Just for example.
I mean, this is the thing. You see. Let's go back a few seconds. Let's see, where are we? We're at 13:17. We're gonna go to 13:4. Let's just do that. And look at look at Joe's face. Now, there's two ways to call someone's question stupid. You can just say it like I do, or you can give him the look, and Joe Rigney chooses to give him the look.
So I'd flip this around and just to take it out of the mockery thing and put it in someplace else and see what would you do.
Yeah.
So say you were going to write a book encouraging people to be gentle and lowly.
Just for
Look at the look. Oh, man. Give me a second. So anyway, got it together. This is the look that you remember from your mother or your father or your grandfather, or, whoever raised you. And the look basically says, I'm not even mad. I'm just disappointed. A dagger to your heart. You get this look and you just feel that dagger and you're like, oh, how can I be so stupid? So gentle and lowly, right? You write a book about gentle and totally safe book to write in Big Eva land. Dane Ortland, Gavin Ortland, one of the Ortlands, they wrote the Gentle and Lowly book, and that's the whole Big Eva program. You're not supposed to be mocking and using sarcasm. You're supposed to be gentle and lowly. Gentle and lowly. That's Sean's thing. So what if you wrote a book called Gentle and Lowly? He's not mad. He's just disappointed.
For example.
Just for example. Say someone wrote a book like that. Okay? And let's say that you put up guardrails saying, of course, we know that Jesus wasn't always gentle and lowly, but also had a harder, and you acknowledged this is one form and it's directed towards confused sheep and sheep without a shepherd and so forth. But to wolves, he came down hard. And then somebody then took your book, Gentle and Lowly, and decided to go all woke and let in all the wolves in sheep's clothing. And then somebody said, look what you did. And you said, no, I said that you ought to fight the wolves and you ought to draw the lines and we got to be clear. But then within that, we love and we show compassion and care. I'd say to that, in that situation, then you fulfilled your duty. You put up the guardrails and somebody else jumped over them in order to do what they were going to do. And it's funny how it's on the use of mockery where
this
people.
This is the whole kind of way people are reimagining Tim Keller after his passing. They're saying, Tim Keller was right the whole time, but, a lot of his followers, they went too far and stuff like that. So they know how to do this. They understand what this is all about. And they're wrong about Tim Keller. Tim Keller was awful in his own right. But this is what they do this. They know how to do this, but they don't do it with Doug.
Raise this question, but not in the other place. In a cult, this is Lewis's statement about we're always prone to bring a fire extinguisher to a flood, right? And if you look around, one of my questions when people have acknowledged, as you did at the beginning, everybody acknowledges that mockery and satire have a place in the biblical storyline. Prophets did it, Jesus did it, Paul did it.
Not everybody acknowledges that. Not everybody acknowledges that. Joe is being generous, but he is wrong. This might be the first time that I'm disagreeing with Joe Rigney here. Not everybody acknowledges that. A lot of people, while they acknowledge that Jesus did it and the prophets did it, they will tell you that you're not Jesus and you're not a prophet, so you can't do it. And I always thought that was one of the most brain-dead arguments I've ever heard, because nobody would say that about being gentle and lowly. Oh, well, Jesus was gentle, he was lowly, but you're not supposed to do that. You're not Jesus. What are you, Jesus? It's insane. So Joe is being generous, but not everybody agrees with that.
It has its place.
Just look at my mentions.
But nevertheless, here's the hard question for you. It's like, well, where are the other people? What is anybody else other than, say, the Babylon Bee faithfully doing it, even attempting to do it? Yeah. Or is it sort of like this is the one sword in the arsenal that never gets brought out?
Why do you think so few people decide to use this tool?
We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But one of the things that I'm doing for my talks at the upcoming Shepherd's Crook intensive, or what is it called again? I don't know. But the conference that I'm going to, the fishing conference. One of the things I'm going to talk about is the book of Ecclesiastes, and Ecclesiastes 3, very famous passage. And I think about this all the time because everybody knows this passage. They even wrote a song about it, a secular song, or I think it was a secular song. I don't know. But it's like everybody knows this passage, but people pretend like it doesn't say what it says. And when you're a man, you've got to decide what time it is, right? That's why people always say you don't know what time it is. You don't get it. That's why you're not going to make it. But there's a time for everything. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the sun. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. People pretend like there's no time to kill. There's a time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. People like to pretend like there's never a time to break down. Only a time to build up. That's not what it says. A time to weep and a time to laugh. People pretend like there's no time to laugh. You weep with those who weep, but you don't laugh with those who laugh. You don't celebrate with those who celebrate if it's not approved. A time to mourn and a time to dance. Is there ever a time to dance in Big Eva land? Besides when the left does something that's approved? You get it. You guys get it. The time to rend. There's a time to sow, a time to keep silent, a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate. You must learn to hate because there's a time for it. Neil Shenvi, wrote a recent review of Andrew Isker's book, and he's talking about, he had a quote out of the thing talking about how dangerous it is to be so angry at Trash World and hate things in Trash World. That's not, Jesus has a better way. Jesus has a still better way. Neil Shenvi doesn't know what time it is. Neil Shenvi knows Ecclesiastes 3, but he doesn't know Ecclesiastes 3. And there are many such examples. They know Ecclesiastes 3, but they don't know Ecclesiastes 3. There's a time to hate. There's a time for war, and there's a time for peace. This is the thing. Like, you get it, but you don't get it. And Sean DeMars gets it, but he doesn't get it. Because if he did get it, he wouldn't have asked such a stupid question.
Because it's so effective. It is truly effective. It really gets in people's midst, and then they counterattack. If you start shooting live ammo, you're going to get return fire.
You're going to end up on right-wing watch. And the last thing any of these Big Eva guys want is to end up on right-wing watch where they're being mocked by the pagans. They don't want that because they lose their respectability. It's not so much what is true that's important to people like this. It is about what they can get away with saying that won't lose them their credibility. That's what it's about. And so that's why very few people use mockery, because mockery is so good at getting what is true out there that you will always lose your credibility if you put your finger on the point that directly. When you're nibbling around the edges and you're only, saying things that you are, they're true, but you can get away with it, like you'll never, ever, ever get that return fire. You won't lose your credibility, at least not that fast. You eventually will, but not that fast. That's why so few people are out there using it. But you know what? The numbers of people that are out there using these tools is growing every single day, and that terrifies them. That's why we will never, ever run out of articles that talk about the dangers of social media, the dangers of the internet. That's why Neil Shenvi will write the same review of right-wing stuff again and again and again and again and again, and he'll say stupid, brain-dead things like, oh, we have a still better way. It's a still better way.
Have been the recipients of return fire for a long, long time. And on this question, here's another illustration. I've taught many classes, classroom things, and I've given superlative grades to many students over the years, and I've flunked many students over the years. I don't feel responsible for the students I flunked.
Will you still love me when I'm no longer young? Lana.
Nope.
Right.
Nope.
Because they didn't do the work.
Yeah.
They didn't do
A lot of
what
my
I-
friends like Lana Del Rey.
I assigned this and they didn't write the paper. I signed that. So when people are out there imitating me and they're flunking the course, they're not doing anything I said.
Their worst Doug Wilson impersonation.
Yeah, that's John Dewey. Not that I want to quote him with appreciation too much, but John Dewey once said, "Lord, deliver me from my disciples." Yeah. So there's a cohort of disciples that are in my name doing things that if they were taking a class from me on how to do it, I would be flunking them, but they're not in my class.
Yeah.
And so I don't feel responsible. And this is the next thing. There's a chapter on this in Mere Christendom.
I think if Doug was grading me, I think I'd get a solid B-. I'd get a nice solid B-. Maybe, I don't know. Doug, will you grade me? Will you grade my efforts here?
It's the chapter on
Actually,
Jesus
please
mobs. When you look at the Jerusalem in the first century, that place was a powder keg. It was ready to go up at any moment. And the reason they had to arrest Jesus at night is because they were afraid of the crowds. And it says this numerous places. The religious leaders were afraid of the crowds. And then in Acts, when they go to arrest the apostles, they brought them very gingerly because they were afraid the crowd was going to stone them. Mm-hmm. Now, it's very clear that these crowds had not gotten the Sermon on the Mount memo. They were like radical Trump supporters.
Yeah, right, okay.
They were ready to start a revolution. Mm-hmm. They were the people who listened to Jesus' teaching and got it, and there were people who were in favor of Jesus, had been baptized by John, but who had maybe 1/3 of what, maybe heard a parable or something, and they were hopping mad at the Romans and hopping mad at the Jewish compromisers that were working with the Romans, and they were an angry, seething mob.
Okay.
Right? And in that moment, Jesus went up to the temple and started flipping tables. Now, is Jesus responsible for what the mayhem that might happen if a riot broke out? So Jesus was not pouring oil on troubled waters. Jesus went to Jerusalem. He knew what was going to happen in Jerusalem. He he went up to the temple complex to touch their eyeball and did this in a very provocative way, got arrested and was railroaded in the middle of the night. And he did it in a time when there were multitudes of people who would have taken his name and done it all wrong. Mm-hmm.
This is by the way, I don't know why this video keeps doing this. This is the only video I watched that does this. Does anyone understand this? Is this on Room for Nuance's side? I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but in any case, that is a very, very interesting little tale that Doug told there. There's something in there because I've been thinking a lot about this. That every movement, and I'm thinking of it in terms of politics, not so much what Doug's thinking about here. But every side has their intellectuals. Every side has their people that are a little bit more cautious, more careful, more nuanced. And every side also has like their goons as well. that go in and they're on the right side, but they've got all the wrong tactics, or maybe they just go too far, maybe they're too zealous or too crazy. Every side has groups like that, right? And I think that's necessary, right? That's necessary. Now, I think that the more careful, the more intellectual among us, it's totally appropriate for them to sort of try to rein in their side and to try to get it to be more effective and stuff like that. But what you don't want to do is start casting the people that are like the rebel rousers, like the rabble rousers. I don't know, the rabble rousers, the more base level, to try to cast them as the enemy. Like, no, they actually are on your team. That's not your enemy. They're on your team, and you're not responsible. Like, if an intellectual goes out there and says, yeah, I'm against immigration, and here's my 5-point reasons why, here's my PowerPoint presentation. You know, he's like John Harris. He has his PowerPoint and all that. And he says something like that. And then, like, there's, like, the base level that say, yeah, I'm against immigration, too. And then they go to the border, and they're beating people up and stuff. Like, that, the 5-point plan guy is not responsible for the behavior of the goon, right? But at the same time, they are on the same team. They're not enemies. And so, this urge, like, I think it would be appropriate for the John Harris type, the 5-point plan type, to say, hey, you know, guys, we really shouldn't be beating up immigrants, right? Like, that's probably not what you want to go and do. But it wouldn't be appropriate for them to say, oh, look at all those bigots, look at all those racists, you know, they're just completely deplorable, you know, anti-American. Like it would not be appropriate for the 5-point plan guy to then use the tools of the enemy against people that are on your side. Like, there's something here where Jesus, like, he wouldn't have approved of the crowd, like Doug is saying, using his example, but he didn't stop them, and he also didn't, like, alter his plans and use the terminology of the Romans to describe the rebel rousers. Rebel? I don't know. There's something there, man. There's something there, and it might have something to do with the friend-enemy distinction. Call me crazy. Call me crazy.
And, well, welcome to Earth, kid, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
That's just simply the way it is. If you're George Whitefield, you're preaching you're a great revivalist.
Doug Wilson, nice guy, all around warm, nice guy. Just told Sean, welcome to Earth, kid. And Sean, I really hope you heard it. I really hope you heard it. And you might feel offended, and you might feel a certain kind of way, but that's what you need to hear. Welcome to Earth, kid.
Is there going to be some 19-year-old kid who wants to be a great revival preacher?
For all the wrong reasons.
For all the wrong reasons.
And use all kinds of tactics you'd never use, but who's going to come behind you and sort of claim your name. It's like, yeah, that's gonna happen. And there's no way to avoid it.
There's no way to avoid it, and you shouldn't try to stop it. You can help him. You can teach him. You can shepherd him. You can kind of like try to you know, alter how he does things, teach him how to do it a little better. You shouldn't try to stop it, though. You shouldn't try to stop it. Whatever happened to Paul, you know, yeah, he's, you know, preaching the gospel for different kinds of reasons, but I'm just praising God. I'm just praising God that the gospel is being preached. There's a lesson there.
Say to someone like me who says in a vacuum, I agree with everything that you've said about the Serrated Edge. Great little booklet, by the way. It's also on audiobook if any of our listeners or viewers want to check it out. It's very good. If you want to kind of hear the whole theory behind all of this. But somebody who says, okay, in a vacuum, I understand that. For me personally, I'm so afraid that I won't use that.
If you only understand it in a vacuum, then you don't understand it. It's just that simple, because a serrated edge is not for a vacuum. So, Sean, you get it, but you don't get it. You need a serrated edge when things aren't ideal. You need a serrated edge in real life, not in a freaking vacuum. The serrated edge is for real life, the life as it really is. with people as they really are. You get it, but you don't get it. So if you're so fearful that you can't use this tool in the toolbox, then you need to work on it. Because you're a pastor, for goodness sake. You need to work on this. You need to put effort into it if you don't get it. Because Jesus provides the example, and you are supposed to imitate Jesus. So if you're too afraid to imitate Jesus in every way, as a pastor, then you're too afraid to be a pastor. You are too afraid to be a pastor. That's what you're saying. And so you don't have to do it the exact way Doug does it. You don't have to do it as often as Doug does it. But you need to understand that for everything, there is a season. And if in your world you're too afraid to understand, well, there is a time to kill, there is a time to break down, there is a time to hate, there is a time for war. If you don't get that, if you're too afraid to do that, then you are not qualified for the job. But I don't believe you. I don't believe you. You're not too afraid. You're too afraid to use it against the left. That's what you're too afraid for. You're totally comfortable using it against the right. But for some reason, the liberals among us, the progressives, have beaten you down so much, they've demoralized you so much, that you are afraid to use the tools in your toolbox that will actually move the needle. You are afraid to end up on right-wing watch. And I think you need to go to God with that. That's what I think. Because you're a pastor. And it's just the job, Skippy.
That serrated edge wisely, and I'll end up hurting people more than helping people. Would you say
there's a time to hurt people? And sometimes that helps. Sean, if I were you, I'm not your pastor, but if I was, I would tell you to start every day and read and meditate on Ecclesiastes 3. And I would tell you, pray to God to show you what the times are, what the seasons are for each of these topics. Because it's in the Bible, and there's plenty of opportunities and plenty of times and seasons to kill, to laugh, to dance, to break down, to hate, to war. There's plenty of opportunities all around you every day because you live in the United States in 2024. And I would get on my knees and I would beg God, show me when the time is for me to do these various things. It's part of the job, man. You're a pastor. You're supposed to be the example that people can look to as someone who's working towards understanding this.
say I need to kind of just like, learn how to do it, bro? Or stick with that impulse?
No, so learn how to do it, because this goes back to your gentle and lowly.
He said no, you said yes.
Well, yes and no. Yes,
yeah, there's
yes and no. A little bit of nuance here.
It's
right.
total
complex
nuance.
things need
Very
complex
complex.
answers.
Let's get
the
clear.
gentle and lowly point are people who are afraid of being too acerbic or too polemical or too belligerent, things that an elder must not be. An elder must not be a brawler, must not be a striker. See, we want to be fit the qualifications of 1 Timothy 3 and Titus 1. And so they concentrate on being loving and kind and gentle. And I say, okay, is there no pathology associated with those virtues?
Can they go
pathology, meaning it can go
not only is there
badly.
pathology there, but that is rampant. That's the issue. There's a flood, and we're bringing a fire extinguisher. It's like my example, the two ditches, and we're all way over here. And we're worried about this ditch. You should worry about this ditch.
badly wrong.
Yeah.
Yes, not only can it go badly wrong, but it is doing so all over North America.
Right now.
It's destroying the church.
The West, yeah.
Right? It is the flood, and people saying you can't have too much satire. That's the fire extinguisher. So yeah,
That's like I go to the gym 3 days a week right now, and that's like me worried about making an idol out of fitness. And I go to the gym 3 days a week for a couple hours. It's like, I'm not even close. I'm not even close. That's like me saying maybe I care too much about nutrition, and the only thing I'm doing is taking vitamins.
I don't know of you if we went out and tried to round up all the churches that are being torn apart because their pastor is too acerbic when he addresses the sins of the age. Would come up with maybe 10, right? If we had to round up all the churches that are rotting out from the inside because of empathy, because of nuance, because of all the things that they've compromised on, and these are all virtues that have become leprous. Really, kindness really is a virtue. Gentleness really is a virtue.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why people don't want to come here is they don't want to see how happy our wives are.
Yeah, and what kind of...
They don't want to see that it's a community where people love each other and they sacrifice for each other. It's not like we make fun of each other 24/7 all the time. It's a small fraction of what we do.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. It's like, it's not that you don't worry about everything else. Of course you do. And I think about, the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, all that stuff. I think about self-control, all of it. I think about it all the time. And I practice it all the time. Because there's a time for building up, in addition to breaking down. There's a time to heal, in addition to the time to kill. There is a time to mourn, in addition to the time to laugh. So it's not like you ignore that, but the thing is, we're getting all of this ink is being spilled and hours on YouTube about this particular thing and how maybe it could go wrong. I'm too afraid to use it. And none about the other side, when that is our big problem. It is absolutely amazing. We're going to stop there. I was hoping to get Joe's answer as well in this one, but I didn't want to go to 40 minutes. So here we are. I hope you found this video helpful. God bless.